Erin, in 2015 and into 2016, you actually drafted the policy, the parental leave policy for the New York Times. I think when some people hear that you were able to do that, they're surprised to hear that an employee could have such a massive change inside of a company, not just to change company culture, but also to change a company policy. What was that process like? I imagine it wasn't easy. What were the hurdles that you faced, and how did this all happen?
Yeah, it took me and four women 8 months to push through a new policy that was competitive, that would help retain women, and be inclusive of all parents. Um, we approached it the same way we approached our jobs, with the same rigor. We put together a business case. We got data, all the data that we could. We talked to every parent that we could, that had been through the transition to parenthood and then back to work, to try to figure out what to propose. And in the end, like you pointed out, we know that it's a social and moral imperative, but it was a business imperative. And we made the case to the business, and the leadership team, that this was the right thing to do for the company.
So, when you were going through that process at the New York Times, what were the lessons that you learned in terms of the motivation of an employee being able to have the ability to make such a significant change inside of the company in terms of culture and policy?
We became the most educated people on parental leave in the building. We did all of our research. We learned what our policy was. We learned how to talk about the gap between where our policy was and where we wanted to go. We learned how to present to leadership in a way that they would understand and feel compelled to say yes. And so we just did the work, and it took 8 months, but it was worth it in the end. I think, I mean, that's the advice I give to most people. Like, it's going to take time to do it really well, but you get one shot at it, really.
This wasn't the only time that you've drafted a company policy. The first was at the New York Times. The second was at Away. How did it differ, being able to push something through at a very large global organization versus creating something and pushing something through at a very young but rapidly growing organization?
I always say that at the New York Times, it took five women 8 months to push through a policy that was inclusive and, by American standards, generous. At Away, it was just a Tuesday. It was me and the CEO. It took almost no time, and the policy was really similar. We've since built on that policy, at Away, and I think the difference is Away is founded by two really brilliant women who understood the importance of retaining your employees, and the importance of, um, taking care of your employees so they can take care of your business. And it didn't require all of the convincing that sometimes at larger companies it does. They understood, obviously, the social and moral imperative, of course, and then I think as women and as millennials, and then, and as business leaders, and then they also understood the business case for it. That again, it retains employees. It leads to productivity. I mean, all of the things that we know to be true, they they knew going into that conversation, so it was really easy.
I think when you're a young and growing company, there aren't always the policies in place until the moment arises where you realize we need a policy to support this employee situation. Thinking about other young and rapidly growing companies, what advice would you have either to the employees or to the leadership team in terms of proactively thinking about how you can build an environment for your employees where, they're able to create change or establish policies that are there to protect the employees?
I do get the tension when you're a new startup and you're thinking about who you're going to be and what your employees need, how to find product market fit. All of the things are kind of happening at the beginning. My advice would really be thinking about your people first. A lot of leaders say it. This is one way to show it.